Yeah, I'm Michael Nakashimada, and I lead product at Ride Report, transportation startup based in Portland, Oregon, in the United States. And we're a startup that builds software for government regulators like cities and counties to manage new mobility services. Yeah, so if we take a step back, and I'm going to speak mostly from the U.S. perspective and also what I've seen around the world. But I think if we look at the top, like transportation as a whole, personal transportation, getting from A to B, ridership is down across the board in every form factor, every mode, whether that be public transit or personal cars. We're seeing anywhere from a 60 to 80% drop in mode share across all these different vehicles and forms of transportation. And public transit obviously has suffered a lot recently as people don't want to be confined in small spaces next to people when everyone, the news media, is telling you to stay away from people. And then micromobility, being scooter share, bike share, moped share, has also suffered a lot as well in terms of ridership decline. But from what I've gathered and what I've seen in the market in the U.S. is that ridership is down around 60 to 70% across the board, and micromobility operators are having to adjust to this new reality because most of their revenue comes from shared rides that are priced per minute. And what we've seen as cities started to order people to stay at home is a lot of the micromobility companies have actually pulled or paused services in majority of markets in the United States, but also around the world. It's not all of them, but there's still a few that are running services at a reduced fleet size and reduced service level. And there's a few examples like Groove in San Jose and Oakland. Spin is running reduced service in a few markets like Portland and Austin, Los Angeles. And then I know in France, there's Dot running reduced service in Paris as well. And so it's been very fascinating to watch how different operators have been adapting to the new normal in this crisis, right? So business aside, I want to focus on other signals we're seeing in the market on the private side of micromobility, like personal bikes or personal scooters or e-bikes. We don't have any hard data, or I haven't seen any hard data of actually personal bicycles, but anecdotally talking to city officials, folks on the ground in cities around the world, it definitely seems like personal bike ridership is actually up. I was riding my bike in Portland yesterday, and it felt like Copenhagen. Other signals we're seeing is with public transit decline and people being a fear of getting on public transit. There's some concerns around funding of public transit, especially in the U.S. market where revenue and ticket sales is tied with the budgets of these transit operators. And if they're not making revenue, that actually decreases their budgets for the rest of the year. What we've seen, and we're starting to see some data about this, is that grocery delivery, on-demand delivery, e-commerce delivery has just skyrocketed. And that is an important trend to watch because that means there's more delivery vehicles actually on our public right-of-way and on our street network trying to fight for curb access. And right now, as there's been a drop in transportation, personal transportation, that hasn't been a problem. Like I've talked to delivery drivers and they love being able to park anywhere, get it to a grocery store or restaurant very quickly, as opposed to times where they're fighting against traffic and on-street parking, which is usually full in busy areas of town. And so I think as consumers and as riders, our logistics and like goods side, we're going to start relying more and more on grocery delivery and on-demand delivery. And that's going to bring more traffic and congestion to our systems in ways we haven't seen before. We've been talking about it a lot, but this is accelerating that demand or that trend towards more e-commerce and on-demand deliveries. And then I want to look at micromobility, both on the shared and personal side. I think we'll see more people, at least this year, take personal bikes, scooters out as they get around. On the shared side, again, it's how people adapt. Will they be scared of touching a vehicle that other people touch? We were headed towards market consolidation regardless. This just accelerates, compresses the timeline even more because, you know, a lot of these companies are sitting on the sidelines now. Uber, Lyft, ride hailing in Europe is down 50% plus. I've heard numbers up to 70%. A car share, driver, get around, have had massive layoffs over the last month. So transportation demand is down, revenue is down. And so that's going to be a catalyst for some creative thinking in these boardrooms and executives, management teams, to see where they can align with other companies to cut costs, maybe look at creative acquisitions and mergers. Yeah, I think we'll definitely see more consolidation in the market. And, you know, in France especially, is the shared micromobility capital, Paris, with, you know, tens of thousands of scooters on the ground. There were 16 different companies that applied to Paris tender to run and operate a scooter service. I have a hard time imagining all 16 being around 6 months from now.